I'm somebody who is always trying to be better for the betterment of society, if you will. And I wanted to speak about something that I'm going to put out there to Black people, mixed race people, people who just do not get the same grace to be the spectrum of human. So this also applies to people who are autistic too, and anyone else who can relate to that. This video is for them. But this is going to be the rawest, most vulnerable video that I probably ever done. So before I chicken out, let's get started. I'm somebody who has always prided myself on choosing the right path, choosing the right thing, if you will, even when that thing is hard. Like not becoming the racial hatred that I've received and not mirroring that back out into the world. Holding my tongue when my body is screaming to speak. Like offering grace to people who would definitely not offer me the same thing. And for a long time, I thought that was strength. I really did. I thought that's how I would survive. But now, I'm at a crossroads, in all honesty. I've learned and I've realised something that I didn't want to admit. People are allowed to be way more human than me, and they are getting away with it at an exponential rate. They're allowed to lash out, they're allowed to break down, they're allowed to make mistakes, they're allowed to be cruel. And yet they are still loved. They are still comforted. They are still seen. Me? Well, no, I'm always expected to be the bigger person because that is the person I've always presented to them. To be calm, kind, forgiving, always measured. And somebody else who is intentionally harmful, they don't have to do those same things. And I've got to the point where I've had enough of it. Because what started on a mission, if you will, a commitment to goodness, has become a cage that I'm expected to stay in, while everyone else gets to throw around fire and just call it having a bad day. And when I say this, people roll their eyes at me. They say I'm being dramatic, I'm too sensitive, I'm throwing the race card, I'm making it about race. Or worse, they act like I'm the problem for noticing this. But the thing is, I wasn't taught to just be good. I was taught to be invisible to my own suffering. Because I was a brown girl. I was at the time an undiagnosed autistic girl. And a girl who grew up as a triple minority, too complex for their boxes, too inconvenient for their narrative. I wasn't allowed to be human or have human emotions, let alone express them. Because if I did, it gave them a reason. It gave them a reason to hate me more. And I didn't want to give them any ammunition. So I learned early on to be polite when I'm hurt, to be soft when I'm scared, to be better than they are because they're just waiting. They're waiting for a reason and they're waiting for my downfall. And I did that. Although the good in me existed and it is an integral part to who I am, also my goodness was performative and I don't want to do that anymore. Because let me tell you the things that I was good through. I remained good when I was having bricks thrown in my face by people who called themselves friends, or when I was taken to the park by kids who befriended me, then slapped me around and then left me alone there because they knew that I didn't know how to get home. I was good even when they ripped white man's land on the side of my house, and then later broke in and wrote it on the inside too. A little context for how old I wasn't even in high school yet when those things were happening. I was good even when I'd been sexually abused. I was good even when strangers screamed racial slurs at me at stadiums, in the street, or during an argument, like that was a normal weapon to just reach for. Even when I was told time and time again that what I went through wasn't racism, I still chose to be kind. I still chose to be thoughtful. I still chose to choose love and be loving above everything else. Because I believe that if I kept showing them who I really was, they'd stop seeing me as something to fear. They'd stop seeing me as something beneath them. But now I see how deep that wound goes. Because when somebody else behaves in harmful ways, they are often given softness. They're held, they're comforted, they're understood because they're family or they love them, or they're friends and they love them. But when I feel pain, when I get angry or need space, or I draw a boundary, I'm a problem. Even things like if my partner reacts sharply to me, but then he's kind to somebody else who might be actually causing harm, it lights up an old wound in my nervous system. It makes me start to feel resentful, invisible, like my kindness has become a punishment. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of feeling like I'm doing emotional gymnastics all of the time just to be lovable. So now I'm asking myself the question that I've been afraid to ask myself this whole time. And I wonder if you can relate. What if I stop trying to be good and I start allowing myself to be whole? What if I stop shrinking my truth to make others feel more comfortable? What if I stopped holding space for people who definitely will not hold space for me? Because I was so afraid to be the same as them. But here's what I know now. You don't have to be cruel to protect yourself. I just have to stop making my humanity the most disposable thing in the room. I'm allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to stop over explaining. You're allowed to stop bleeding empathy into people who just keep cutting you deeper. You're not becoming like them. You're becoming more honest. You're not choosing violence. You're choosing clarity. And if somebody can't sit with that, you holding a mirror up to them, let them leave. Let them misinterpret you. In fact, let them think whatever they want. Because guess what? They're going to anyway. And you know, the people who choose humanity, like myself or like somebody maybe who's watching this still, they might not always win. They might not always come out on top, but they win something better. They win peace. They win self-trust. They win legacies that are built on trust and not performances. And the ones who live without the empathy, they might rise fast. In fact, they often do, but they rise empty because they don't get to feel real connection. They don't get depth, and they don't get to sleep at night with a soul that can rest. So yeah, it is hard. It's hard feeling deeply in a world that often mirrors back that it doesn't, especially towards you. But I do need to armor myself up with the things that I was taught that I wasn't allowed to be. I no longer need to perform goodness, and neither do you. You just need to live in your wholeness. You need to hold your compassion in one hand, and you need to hold your fire in the other. And that is how we win. Because I think for so long, I confused all of the things that I had become. One, to survive, but two, because it felt like the right thing to do, with goodness. And if anything sat outside of that, it meant badness. And I realize now that there are many things that sat in what I thought was badness that I do need to armor myself up with. Because I had to redefine evil, if you will. It was important for me to live morally. But what I've realized is that something that people can perceive as bad isn't always two-dimensional. It's responsive. And I had to redefine what I thought evil is. And I've realized now for me, evil means when you inflict harm on other people whilst removing your awareness. And that can be two things. That can be willfully ignorant, or that can also be unintentionally ignorant. But then if after that point, there is not the follow-up of accountability, remorse, empathy, once you have learned that that is harmful, then that sits in the spectrum of evil to me. And I can honestly say that I do not operate in that space, but I will armor myself up with boundaries. I will make you accountable, and I will hold my fire in my other hand. And the people who receive my softness will deserve to receive my softness. And the people who don't is an intentional choice for me at this point. Is anybody else going through this lesson at this time? I feel like I've been through this lesson time and time again, but I am learning it at a deeper level every single time it revisits me. And this is where I'm currently at with it. I hope this has been helpful to people. I hope if it's something that you've experienced, you feel seen. And I hope it's helped you realize that your goodness, your kindness is not something that should be weaponized against you. And it should be something that is held with the utmost respect and reserved for the people who deserve it.